Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Atomic Mass Transmissions Live. I'm Will Schick, Director of Product Development for Atomic Mass Games. Super excited to be here today, kicking off our stream week. We're going to be streaming today, tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday, all at 1 p.m. Pacific. So be sure to tune back in for those. But today we're going to kick off one of two streams. We're going to be focusing on The Hood, who, if you haven't checked the social media yet, his panel to play went up along with the cards for this character's stats, so you can check out everything the Hood does. Very cool character, one that I was super excited to see come out in this wave. We had a lot of fun creating and working on this character because he's a transforming character. So we got to make two miniatures out of this super awesome guy instead of just one. So we have regular Hood, who I'm going to be painting today. Then on Thursday, if you come back at 1 p.m. Pacific, we're going to be painting the Nisanti Demon version, the possessed version of Hood, so you can see how that looks. So let's get this camera off of me, get it onto Hood, and let's get going because we got a lot of cool stuff to do for him. So here is Parker Robbins in his less monstrous form. This is what happens when... Oh, what's happening? What if I have one handy? I don't know. What am I supposed to have handy, BK? What am I supposed to have handy, BK? I don't even know. You guys show us the Hulkbuster in person. Oh my gosh. I mean, since BK said I could, it's supposed to be... Can we fit him in frame is the real question. So there you go. Here is part of the Hulkbuster. I guess I can zoom out a little bit. So there is the Hulkbuster in person. I know there were some concerns about him being top heavy, but he's pretty stable. You gotta whap him pretty hard to make him fall over. Like, I give him a good flip there. And then everybody loves comparisons. Who should we pick? Well, here's Dormammu. You got a Dormammu problem, you can bring in a Hulkbuster. So there you go. Hulkbuster's kind of cheating because he's got them jets, but yeah, he's on a 65 mil base. 100%. Here is, I guess I'll grab my kid's Red Hulk. This is not mine. This is my younger son's Red Hulk, but there you go. There they are, squaring off. So, all right. So there is the Hulkbuster. I've shown him. Everyone's happy. Oh gosh, I got to zoom way back in now. Let's get back in on Parker Robbins here. Okay. So he is a very big boy. Hulkbuster, very, very large boy. Also comes with his own, as everybody's seen, just because. There's Hulkbuster Iron Man. Little Iron Man. And as many people have figured out, Hulkbuster and the little guy, they work together in the game. And little Iron Man ejects when big bad Hulkbuster runs into some issues. If you want to know all the details about Hulkbuster, though, you got to check out Mini Stravaganza, which is September 11th through the 13th. BK can correct me if I'm wrong on that. We're going to be running a live panel to play for both Hulkbuster and Ms. Marvel, who I know people have been wondering about, who was showing off real early this year as part of the Aconite book announcement, which features one Kamala Khan as the main character, the protagonist. So there's a lot of cool stuff about that. 9th through the 11th, I'm sorry, 9th through the 11th. I knew the 11th was important to Mini Stravaganza, but I got it wrong. So 9th through the 11th. Mini Stravaganza, 9th through the 11th. If you're watching this and you don't have access to chat, come join us. We're going to have a lot of fun. It's going to be amazing. We got so many cool panels and everything planned. We're going to be doing a lot of hobbying. We're going to be some game playing. We're going to be showing off cool stuff. We have some really super sweet teaser videos. Spoiler alert there, I guess. I don't know. Is that a spoiler? We got some videos to show. We're going to have some awesome panels. We're going to be doing that live panel to play where we'll go over Hulkbuster and Ms. Marvel. We've got some development talk on the future of MCP and what to expect from your favorite Marvel miniatures game. It's always a good time. We're going to catch a sneak peek into things that are pretty far off on the schedule. See what's going to close out the rest of this year with Hulkbuster, Ms. Marvel, some other cool stuff. There's a lot. There's a lot to be excited about. There's a lot to be hyped about. And I think you're going to see even some of it. There's still some cool reveals that'll happen to set up Mini Stravaganza as well. So you don't want to miss it. We always have a blast. We have a lot of fun doing that. Just getting this nice red hood cloak. Part of the whole Dormammu possession wardrobe here. You gotta have the cloak, you gotta have the boots. I will be honest though, I was always a big fan of the Hood wearing kind of like his sweet kicks, as I called them, which were more sneaker style, because different art teams have treated the boots of Dormammu slightly different ways, and I always thought it was really funny when they looked like a pair of Converse, so that's what we went with, because it's just the style that I like. I don't know, it makes me laugh. But yeah, this character was, like I said, he was super fun from a design perspective. I knew right away when we started talking about doing the Hood that he had to transform. We had to see his demon form in some way because it's just that's such a cool aspect of the character. And then, of course, it also gave us the chance in development and design to figure out how that worked. We had just finished all the transform stuff with Ant-Man and the Wasp at the time. And so we knew what the mechanics were, but I also knew that I wanted the way that Hood did it to feel very different. Like, he doesn't necessarily have control over it. And so that led to both his unique transform mechanic where he does it when he takes damage and he kind of loses control. He kind of mini hulks out in a way, calls on the demon for extra support. And then, of course, when he is the Nishanti possessed form, he doesn't quite have control about going back, right? So he either has to satiate the Nishanti's hunger by dazing a character. He can expel all of the energy, the dark dimensional energy, by using his spender attack, or he can be forced out of it because he is a possession. So we thought it'd be really cool. I thought it'd be fun if Mystic Attacks could force him back out of it. And having played this character quite a bit, I can tell you, you do not want to see him in his possessed form. He is terrifying. I've watched him chew through just about every 4-threat character in the game without even stopping. And he's done some pretty good work with a little bit of luck on his rolls against 5 threats. I had one specifically fun instance where he got hammered by a Thor, managed to survive, turned into the demon form, then activated in his possessed form, and just put Thor into the dirt. It was amazing. One of my favorite playtest memories of the Hood and that transform mechanic. As far as like development timelines and stuff, we talk about this a lot at panels, and if you want to kind of see the process fleshed out in terms of just our discussion with myself, Pagani, and several other people in development, we do talk about that a lot. But it's usually about 18 months. That's kind of your minimum, you know, and then anything more than that is really gravy. So it's a long time, you know, like by the time that we were done with everything, it's, you know, we're so far, it's weird to work so far into the future like we have to do on so much of this stuff, because this Mystic Wave is just super old in some ways to me, and yet it's finally just now coming out. And of course, the exciting thing about it is that we don't really get to see the miniatures outside of the sculpts and the prints and the prototypes and stuff, but it's only several months before release that you start to see the real product, and you see the production samples and all that stuff, and that's when it becomes really cool and real, and the excitement kind of happens all over again. So you get done with playtest, you're super thrilled about what's coming, you can't wait for it, You move on to the next thing, you kind of forget about it. Then all of a sudden, all of that work becomes physical between the production samples and everything else. And you just get to live that experience all over again and be excited and watch the community react. And one of my favorite things is community hot takes. I always have to spend, an hour or two reading the hot takes and just chuckling. It's fun to see how people react and respond and what people key in on and what they don't. There's, a lot of layers to these characters and what they can do, and what we saw in playtests as like the defining feature, and the playtesters like, this is what this character does. It's amazing. Sometimes that lines up really well with the initial community reaction, and sometimes it's something entirely different. And so it's neat because then that there's, you always want that. You want multiple levels to each character and the game itself that people can discover and explore, and it makes the game more exciting and fun, and we try to do our best to make sure that that's all baked in, and how we approach design and development and all that stuff. And we have a great team that's expanded a bit over the last year, which has been amazing. And that's just kind of been the process. So the good old Parker Robbins here. He's very cool. Yeah, we have a lot of different ways to kind of preview the future, I guess I would call it. Because of course we have all of the classic stuff that BK does, between the model, or like the character reveals and the miniature pictures and all that stuff, and there's a model there for how all of that stuff gets like put out and discovered. But then we also have, the product itself. So we can have affiliation lists that give previews to kind of the future, or where we're going. And a lot of that stuff is planting seeds for the future. And, there's no specific guarantee as to you're going to see that in the next 3 months, 5 months. I think there's still some characters that have been shown on Team Tactic cards that we haven't even gotten to yet. So it's all part of the process, and it's all part of like defining and showing the game in its really lush potential. There's a lot of ground to cover, and we want to get to it all, and sometimes we plant those seeds and it takes a while for them to bloom, and other times it's right around the corner. So you just never know. But patience is definitely rewarded, I guess I would say. I know we're talking a little bit about future and like what's coming and stuff like that. I'm going to go back to our classic refrain, which is we can't talk about anything in future development. Yes, no, no comment. So if you've seen it in some way, we'll talk about it. If you haven't seen it, well, that's part of the fun and the surprise, the mystery. You just never know. The hood's transform was never actually costed at 1 power. It was actually always the way it is on the card now. There were some changes, like originally he didn't transform when he was dazed, and we very quickly figured out through playtest and stuff that was really important, because if he didn't transform when he was dazed, obviously one of the big things with the hood is that you want him to get damaged, and so he presents an interesting challenge for your opponent, because your opponent doesn't want him in that demon form. The possessed form is more like a 4-point character in terms of its offensive output and what it can do, and a lot of people, I think, haven't quite wrapped their heads around how powerful the protection ability is, where he can ignore 2 points of damage to a minimum of 1. Like that, it's amazing how it doesn't sound like much over things like Invincible Iron Man or other things, but it is it is crazy how durable and resilient that makes him. And so your opponent has to play this game of, if he transforms into the possessed form, he's an absolute monster and nightmare, and he's really hard to get rid of if you don't have access to mystic attacks. But if you don't attack him, like the Hood, Parker Robbins in his normal form can do a lot of work. He's healing his team. He generates power pretty well. He has his rapid fire mystic pistol attack, his hex shot, which is exceptionally good and very reliable. And so you put your opponent in these kind of like tricky situations where your opponent has to try to take him out in one shot. But even when he does, the big thing is that then he transforms regardless when he's dazed. And so you're always going to get at least one activation in that possessed form, and that possessed form is no joke. It's extraordinarily huge. Did we ever plan on... I knew this question was going to... I told everyone at the office, the first question. I thought it was going to be the first question, not the Hulkbuster question. But the first question I was going to get was leadership. And what I'll say is that no, we never planned on him having a full-fledged leadership, because we really wanted to focus in on the possession and what he did as a character. However, and there's also the rules thing. So I talked a little bit before about how the Hood has 2 full stat cards, which combine to form 1 stat card in terms of the transform. There's going to be new rules language that's going to get added to the core rules that will kind of discuss that and how that works. But we're always very careful about complexity and character and like cognitive load. And since the way the Hood works and kind of the disparity, the strong disparity between his 2 forms is pretty heavy, we didn't want to add another layer to like leadership. So as we've always talked about, maybe there's a day, hopefully in the future, where we revisit the Hood and he does get a leadership. However, I guess I'll spoil something a little bit here, because I think it's supposed to be tomorrow in BK's schedule. People have pointed out, well, there's this card called Hood's Gang, and I'll give credit to where credit is due. This was our good friend Josh Colon, our art director. He was like, I really want to do an art piece that has Hood's classic gang, which includes all of these just crazy, obscure, kind of low-level Marvel villains and crooks. And he was like, because I think we need to make sure that Hood has this kind of like leadership potential, that he can do something. And so Hood's Gang, I won't give away what it does so you can see it yourself, but it is kind of like a much in line with everything else we did with the Mystic Wave, where we have the Convocation leadership, which works very differently in terms of the affiliation, Dormammu's leadership, which works very differently in terms of leadership. Hood's Gang is like a 1-turn leadership that he can activate to kind of show his rise and fall, He's never quite at Kingpin levels. He's never ruling with an iron fist, but he does have his moments where he pulls everyone together and does some pretty awesome stuff. So Hood's Gang was definitely the one. Oh, it went up when the stream started? Well, there you go. Nailed it. How was I supposed to know? BK never tells me these things. Hood's Gang. So that is his like temporary leadership, which of course gives all of his allied characters a reroll, very reminiscent of an actual leadership that you might see on a character. Fits really well with the rest of what the Criminal Syndicate wants to do, obviously. So there, I can actually talk about the specifics of it. So yeah, it is a very potent leadership. It's reminiscent of Wetworks in a way, but it's slightly more conditional. However, it's not, I don't think it's once per turn. I don't have the card in front of me, but you can all see it, so So yeah, so that's kind of the nod to Parker Robbins as someone who organizes and leads the criminals of the Marvel Universe from time to time in a slightly different way, and one that allows players to not be overloaded, like I talked about before, with the... oh, the dogs are going. Oh, my puppies. They're losing their minds. So that allows you to play, if you choose to take that card, with Parker Robbins as a little bit of like a temporary leader. And of course, it's even better because it stacks on top of your current leadership. So maybe at some point the dogs will stop howling and it'll be great. Is Hood part of the criminal syndicate? I mean, I don't think I'm giving anything away when I say that obviously he is. Like, where else would he go, for crying out loud? So, how could I? I mean, I wouldn't notice because I was eating my lunch really fast before this stream. Because this happens, I get a very short window of stream setup, and then I get to paint basically for my lunch. So I have to eat the food before. Okay, I'm going to mix up a black glaze. So I'm using some Vallejo black glaze. Let's talk a little bit about painting. We're having fun talking about the hood in general, though. So black glaze, a little bit of flat black paint, a little bit of black wash. Oh my gosh, no, not my puppies. They're too big. They would just knock everything off the table. It would be pandemonium. They're very cute dogs, but they're kind of monsters when it comes to the destructive nature. They're always tearing around the house, knocking things over. A little bit of glaze. But yes, I will say Hood, criminal syndicate, of course. Hood's gang, again, gives that nod to the leadership. Works in a cool, different way. Certainly a very powerful card. And the thing that I like about it is that it does really kind of support what you're doing in Criminal Syndicate anyway with the Kingpin's leadership. So he doesn't switch when he loses damage now. The only ways that Hood switches forms are he dazes somebody with his claws attack. I think he just dazes somebody. He uses his spender attack, or he gets damaged by a mystic attack. And I could be slightly wrong in those conditions because I don't have the card in front of me. So I'm going by memory. But those three conditions are basically it, with maybe a wording change here or there. But he can't voluntarily, he can't voluntarily do it outside of doing the spender attack, which he obviously has to have enough power for. A very good attack. But again, kind of the idea behind Hood was we wanted a transform mechanic that felt like somebody who was possessed. So he doesn't necessarily want to transform. It just kind of happens based on these conditions, and when it does, he's very, very scary. But because he doesn't have control over the transformation, he can't really control transforming back either. You know, there are conditions to put the Nishante demon to rest. And that was kind of the way that we worked it out. Hood in Dark Dimension. As folks have pointed out, when you take Dormammu, he 100% is. So, you know, it's a little weird to talk about like characters in that affiliation. And I don't want to spoil the surprise of the affiliation card too much. But it's kind of inconsequential at the moment. Now, you know, who knows what Team Tactic cards we might see in the future for Dark Dimension and stuff like that. Obviously, we showed both the Dark Dimension affiliation cards that come in the Dormammu pack during our super awesome and absolutely epic Ultimate Encounter stream last Thursday, which Pagani and I were narrowly able to defeat the Dread Dormammu before he took over our dimension, thanks to a very, very awesome Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider certainly the MVP of that entire experience right there. Alright, so we're just going to knock in this. We'll let that kind of dry. And we'll come back and hit all that stuff again. I'm going to go back to the white on the chest. How early in development do chapter... Are you talking about like the SKU numbers? If you're talking about like the product codes, there's no real rhyme or reason to them, I guess. I wouldn't bother trying to ascertain or divine some kind of like grand secret from those numbers. I will say that we use every number, but they're definitely not in order. They kind of just get assigned as they get assigned. So they have nothing to do with release order, basically. Like once we come up with an idea, we assign it a number. And then, yeah, depending on like CP whatever, right? That doesn't mean that, so CP 33 may not come out until after CP 57. All that really means is that CP 33 was thought of or planned out to some extent, chosen before. And even that's not entirely true, because sometimes projects like dramatically change and then the numbers change. Like it's a whole thing. So yeah, it's those numbers only mean that you can be sure that every number in between what you haven't seen already is a product, I guess. Maybe that's what you wanted to know. So all right, so we're just going to continue to work on his little white undershirt, adding in a bit more color, making everything go. So let's see, what was in that? What else was in that? So people have seen Seance now for Brother Voodoo, or Dr. Voodoo. Seance is a really cool, very cool tactic card, and just adds more to that Brother Daniel token. And weirder stuff. Oh, do tell. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. I want to come back in here. I just want to hit. See if I can do this on camera without messing everything up. So I'm going to get the inside of the hood with the red. There we go. Okay. So let that black glaze dry. We'll probably do another coat, do another layer over the jacket for sure. So I want that to be nice and dark. And we'll kind of go from there. I'm going to do his shoes. Actually, I guess I probably should have done his shoes with his shirt, because I want his super sweet sneakers, I think, to be white, just for something different. So we're going to give him some sweet, like, white skater shoes as the boots of Dormammu, because again, I love the idea that they're just super comfortable sneakers. They're possessed, but they're super comfortable sneakers. The game mats are currently, I think some of them are out of stock or out of print, and not out of print, but they're out of stock. I don't have an ETA on when any of that stuff's coming back together, for those asking in chat. Obviously, there's been a little bit of logistical struggles with the current global pandemic and stuff. But as far as I know, they're all still active products. I know some of them are still available. I think the Midtown one, the very first one, is the most difficult to find from what I've kind of seen from folks commenting on social media and stuff. So hopefully those will get restocked soon. A mushroom forest? My goodness. That would be weird. I agree. That would be very strange. All right, let's paint hood's face. So we're just going to grab some Ishtar pink, which you think I would already have out, but I put everything away the other day. There we go. I had a moment over the weekend where I was like, this desk is too cluttered. It has to be cleaned. And so when I do that, everything gets put away, and instead of having a pile of paints surrounding my workstation, they all get back in their little graves, their little paint graves, and then I have to go dig them out again. I have to necromancer them back. Just want to make sure to smooth this out a little bit. Whoop. Little mistake. Fix it. There we go. Let's erase that. What we gotta do, we gotta do his hands. So, knock these out. Yeah. And then, since we're talking mini extravaganza, might as well give all of you all in the chat a little preview. Well, heads up, we will be having another global mini extravaganza 3-day campaign, like we had the first mini extravaganza and the Civil War one that we did. See, Civil War was last mini extravaganza, and then we had the Infinity Stone one, the gem one with the Illuminati, the Infinity Watch, and the Black Order during Virtual Gen Con last year. So we're doing another one of those. This one appropriately will be themed around a really great Doctor Strange run where these external forces called the Empiricule show up, and their goal is to eliminate magic across all realities. And so they show up on Earth and they start getting rid of all the magic, and Doctor Strange and all the other magical users have to try to fight back and stop them from doing it. So you'll get to choose in that one whether you want to play on the anti-magic side or the pro-magic side. And you'll of course get a bunch of different you'll get a whole bunch of different powers and opportunities and upgrades over the course of the 3 days. There'll be unique scenarios and missions that you'll get to play. Should be a lot of fun. Sarah did an amazing job working that one up. And I am excited to play it as well. So she did fantastic at just capturing the whole feel of the story, and I was even reading the outline of all the stuff that she done. I was very excited. I was like, I can't wait to play this. This is going to be super cool. And you will of course be playing for the right to see a alternate art team tactic card wind up in a future OP kit, and our choices for those are really cool as well. We have a very fun pro magic one and an anti-magic one. But assemble your teams and get ready. Set some gaming time aside for the 9th through the 11th so you can participate and help determine the winner. My pro registration friends all let me down last time, and those filthy anti-registration freedom fighters won, and mini extravaganza won. So I'm really hoping to rally folks around the anti-magic side this time. So all right. Okay, so let's go ahead and that kind of dries out. We will move on to the magic effects. I'm just going to do a really quick because it looks like most of my wash here is dry. So I just want to hit this one more time with the black glaze. And you do want to do multiple layers with the black glaze. Where with a wash, you might be able to get away with it like once. The glazes work best if you do several thin coats. Kind of, I mean, exactly like if you were using paint to glaze, you're just laying down translucent layers. But the thing that I've talked about before with the Vallejo black glaze specifically is it's really chunky and kind of waxy. And so it has a tooth to it. And I really like it for doing like leathers, kind of like this coat. And things that I want to have a textured feel, because it leaves a bit of that behind as it dries, and I think it makes a really great looking and very easy to do leather effect when you paint it over a rainy gray or any kind of gray that you want out of it. It turns out really nice. All right. Good with that. Let's go to the magic. So we know that we want the hex shots. I want those to be probably yellowy fire to match my Dormammu. So I'm going to start with a little bit of Tiamat orange. We'll just kind of glaze this in to the pistols. So we'll do a little bit of like some wet blend action here. Now I've seen versions where like the hex shot is just all magical on the pistol, and then I've seen others where it's kind of like more just a normal pistol and stuff like that. But I think we're just going to play with the more magical like approach here. So I'm not painting the silver on first. I'll do that after if I decide that I want it, kind of based on how the glow effect goes and stuff like that. Because we can always just do a really thin translucent layer of this orange or what have you. I'm going to grab some yellow ink tints and thin that out. We're just going to kind of like wet blend a little bit in. It's going to be similar to how I did the Dark Dimension Train last week. So if you caught that on Tuesday before the game stream on Thursday, it's a look kind of familiar, though on a much smaller scale. So I'm just wet blending in my yellows towards the base where everything would be the hottest. I'm letting that orange and yellow kind of naturally mix on the miniature itself, getting some really nice blends. Unlike the Dark Dimension Train, which was very, very large and I could have done forever, spent a lot of time on, much longer than what I forced myself to stop. These areas are much simpler to do. I'm pretty happy with that. I'll let that mix in and dry. Grab just a little bit more of this orange. Come down, come over. Let's reclaim a little bit of that. A little more orange in there. There we go. All right. So we got that going on. Take the light just a little bit, since we're getting pretty shiny with all these washes. And okay, so I'm going to let that dry really quick, and then we'll go back through and we'll kind of blend in a little bit of darker color. I'm going to grab some quick flesh wash, some pre-mixed stuff from Vallejo. And I'm going to put that over our flesh. Quick and simple. Squeeze a bit of that out. Pull this. Just knock that in. So I've been kind of ignoring the red cloak because I feel like the Zenith Prime plus the red Vallejo Air, same technique that we've used on a lot of the different red cloaks over the course, is good enough for our tabletop quality. That's all we're really looking for here. I'm going to grab... It's like trying to finish these in an hour if you can. Hulkbuster is slated currently for this year, for those asking about the timeline on Hulkbuster. So it should be Q4 of this year. But like we say with everything lately, it's all based on global shipping and then your country of origin and all that stuff. So there's so much, there's a lot of challenges currently right now with just logistics and shipping in general. And if you're one of the people who works in that, you know, my heart goes out to you. And I hope that smoother sailing is ahead for anyone who's dealing with that, because we've been certainly kept abreast and aware of just how difficult and problematic all of that has been. So it's always good to take a breath, a little bit of patience. I know it's hard when all of the cool stuff doesn't reach you when you wanted it to or when you thought it would. But unfortunately, that is just the place that we're in right now. The other two tactic cards with Blade that haven't been spoiled yet. BK would have to tell me which two those are. But we could certainly show them. All right. I'm going to grab a little bit of fuchsia magenta. And we're going to do, I think Brendan, who did an amazing job on Hood, wound up doing like orangey fire. But I really like more magenta-y. I don't know, magenta makes me think more of the Dark Dimension than orange fire, which makes me think more of like Ghost Rider, Underworld, Hell kind of stuff. We're not looking for like a Ghost Rider portal. And to me, the Dark Dimension always had like magentas and cyans and stuff. So we're just gonna do a quick wash of this magenta. Make it all fancy and nice. Kind of knock that through. Let the Zenith wash do all of our stuff. And then when this dries, we can go back through with like a darker violet. And we can shade that into the recesses and stuff. And we'll get a nice kind of mystical purpley smoke thing going on. And there's a lot of really cool sculpted detail on this as well. You know, like the little swirls and stuff, so you could really play with this effect quite a bit and have a lot of fun with it. Banishment and Bats the Ghost Hound. Well, if BK gives me the thumbs up, I'm more than happy to pull down the binder that we talked about on our stream game. Go ahead. All right. we're just going to clean this up a little bit. And then we can go grab Senior Bats, the Ghost Hound, and Banishment. Shoop. Sorry, I just got to work this out. Because once it dries, I can't do anything to it except go back in and 2-brush blend it back out. And I'd prefer to let the wash do all my work. See you. I'm just going through and making sure that there are no poodles. All right. Cool. Bam. And we're basically there. We can go through and do the little buttons on his shirt, but otherwise, just kind of hood in an hour. We can obviously, I think, you know, big steps that I'd go next. Do a little washing and shading on the cloak, and then go through and do some highlighting on all the different blacks and stuff. Do the buttons on the shirt. Might as well do that now before I go to the cards, just so we can say we got there. Yeah, just the buttons. Okay. I'm gonna go dig out some gold really quick. Whoop. We're just gonna use this Dwarven Gold from Scale. Paint like the wind. It's true, I got meetings right after this too, so I really can't dilly-dally. Okay, so we'll just get the belt buckle. And then dot in these very shiny gold buttons. Beautiful. Oh, looks like it was all out of focus, but there we go. All right. So there's a one less than an hour, honestly. Tabletop ready hood. So things that I would go through next is just basically popping up all of the highlights and everything else. Building up that contrast and those shadings, do a little dark lining, all that stuff. But I would be very happy and satisfied to put this guy on a table and start playing games with him. Throw in Siege of Darkness. Oh my gosh, so much stuff. All right, I'm gonna leave him here. You can eyeball him because I can't open the binder in front of everyone, so I gotta dig. There's one. There's two. There's three. Ugh. All right. Shablam. So let's see if we can do this. There's Banishment. Super great art. But what does it do, you may ask? After an attack made by an allied Midnight Suns character is resolved, if the attack roll contained crit, wild, or hit, the allied character may spend 2 power to play this card. The target character and enemy characters within range 2 of it gain the stun special condition. So this card can be pretty potent in kind of, especially on closed-in objectives like Gamma or other things where everybody gets clustered around, handing out a whole bunch of stun. Really, really good. Really good. It might be Elsa. Yeah, that's Elsa Bloodstone. That looks like Elsa Bloodstone to me. All right, Bats the Ghost Hound. Oh, so great. Look how happy little Bats is. Look at little Bats. He's so happy. It's probably a little wrong. Bats is pretty crotchety in the comics, but it's all right. He's got to be happy sometime. When an allied Midnight Suns character is modifying its attack or defense dice, it may spend 2 power to play this card. Change one of the allied character's attack or defense dice to any result. This effect may change fail results. So this card is super good, especially when you're fishing for some of those bigger Mystic Yahtzees. I talked about this a lot way back when we first did Loki. One of the things that Pagani actually suggested or came up with at the time as we were working on Loki was the idea that anything that was like spelly, so a big spell, would have multiple triggers, so you could kind of like have to get all the components of the spell just right to make the big effects go off. And so this one obviously super potent when you're looking at characters that have, you know, like you have a Doctor Strange, or other ones, or if you just need the wild for that push, or you need one more success, all that stuff. So these kinds of things are pretty useful and nice and potent. MCP is an objective-based game. And then here is Siege of Darkness, one of my top favorite pieces just for how badass it looks, with all of the characters fighting spectral ghost monsters. Ready to go. And of course you already know what this one does, but I can flip it over anyway. Which is any number of allied Midnight Suns characters may spend 2 power to play this card. Each character that spent power may immediately perform an attack with a power cost of 0. And you know, the strength of this card just doesn't even need to be discussed, because so many of the Midnight Suns characters have really good cost 0 attacks. So paying 2 power is definitely worth it when you consider the power gain that you'll get back from the zeros and all of this stuff. So super good, really fun. Again, one of my favorite pieces of art. It's just, it looks so epic, so good. So there you go. I'm going to flip this over here. Well, thank you very much for joining me today. I hope that you had fun. I hope that you're excited, as I am, to get Parker Robbins' The Hood on the table. Again, come back this upcoming Thursday, 1 p.m. Pacific. And Dallas Kemp is on vacation, so I'm going to be stepping in. I'm going to be painting the possessed version of Parker Robbins' The Hood. Pretty excited for that. We're going to get some gribbly, monstrous demon stuff going on. And then I will have my hood ready to go for the tabletop, so that I can start playing games with this bomb-ass character. Super cool, super awesome. If anybody has any last questions before I wrap up, you can feel free to ask. I will answer what I can. But otherwise, we'll be ready to go and see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific, where we'll be painting up some more cool stuff for some other games that are not Marvel Crisis Protocol. So until then, we will see you tomorrow. Thank you for joining me. Be beautiful, stay good to each other, and we will see you on the next one. Goodbye.